Electricity and magnetism in future transportation. Electricity and magnetism control so much of our everyday lives that we do not even realize. Electricity is obviously the reason we have light, what makes our televisions and microwaves work, the way we can communicate through telephones and computers, and so much more. Magnetism, although we may be less aware, is also a concept that fills our lives each and every day. Magnetism is the way the burglar alarms in our house work, MRI machines in doctors' offices work, microphones and loudspeakers work, and the way we listen to music on a CD, for example. I will now more closely define these two terms, but I will even more demonstrate the way they will be used to better our transportation in the future. Electricity, in very simple terms, is basically just the flow of electric charge. It is the way we have power for electronics, but it is also found in nature, in lightning, for example, and even found in our very own human bodies. There are two different types of electricity: static electricity and current electricity. To explain the way electricity works, atoms, protons, and electrons are important to understand. Atoms are made up of protons, which are positively charged, neutrons, which are neutrally charged, and electrons, which are negatively charged. The amount of electrons and protons control the force of electricity. Like charges, 2 protons or 2 electrons, for example, will repel each other, but in contrast, opposite charges, 1 proton and 1 electron, for example, will attract to each other. Atoms will continually release and accept valence electrons through attraction or repulsion, and these free electrons will flow through the wire, creating this electric current or electricity. Magnetism is the force caused by the strength of magnets. Magnets produce this force by the same method of opposite and like charges like we saw in electricity. Magnets are labeled by north and south magnetic poles, meaning that they are dipolar. Magnets with opposite poles will attract each other, while magnets with like poles repel each other. The magnetic field is important to understand because it is where all of this action takes place. Charged particles moving around the electric field create this magnetism. Stronger charges, faster moving particles, and a stronger magnetic field will produce a greater force than the weaker charges, slower moving particles, and a weaker magnetic field. An interesting fact is that our Earth is controlled by magnetism, as our planet is actually one massive magnet. Electric currents move about the Earth and create this huge magnetic field. There are actually different forms of magnetism, but many are very weak forms. So one of the most widely known forms of magnetism is ferromagnetism, which is permanent magnets. Examples of these would be iron, nickel, and cobalt. We also have the forms paramagnetism and electromagnetism. Electromagnetism creates current through a wire through the motion in the magnetic field. We learned about this when discussing Faraday's law of induction. All of these forms of magnetism exist everywhere around us and are a very big part of our lives, even though we may not realize it. After now having a better understanding of the two terms electricity and magnetism, we now want to focus on the way they may be used in future transportation. Within the next 10 years, there is hope to have cars that can drive themselves and new and improved forms of trains as well. First, the automotive scientists are planning to build a new railway system called the Hyperloop train. The most appealing and impressive quality of this train is that it will be able to travel at speeds over 700 miles per hour. These high speeds are achievable because the Hyperloop train eliminates friction by using air bearings in place of pods. This essentially results in the pod floating on air, eliminating the friction that a normal railway system has with its tracks. Magnetism is used in these Hyperloop systems. Magnets will lie underneath the train in a strategized pattern. The magnetic field that is thus created will lift the train up over the neutrally charged electromagnetic coils and propel the train forward. This train system is thought to be very safe. The repulsion to elevate the train only occurs with movement. Therefore, if there were to be a power failure and something went wrong, the train would not come down until the speed was significantly reduced. The next invention these researchers are intending to release is the autonomous car, or the car that drives itself. We see electricity used in many aspects of this new car. First, the car obviously must know when the other vehicles or objects are close, so radar sensors were first put on all sides of the car. Video cameras further enhance this vehicle's ability to know its surroundings, such as traffic lights, road signs, pedestrians, and other objects that could be on or near the road. LiDAR sensors keep the automobile on the road by shining a laser light to the target, which would be the edge of the road or the edge of the lane in this case. So it is aware of its position on the road and its driving lane. A computer system is placed inside the car to control the car overall. It commands the car to steer the appropriate direction, accelerate when necessary, and also brake when necessary. All of these qualities mentioned in the autonomous car are completely controlled by electricity. Without it, it would be impossible for these cars to work. The main issue holding these autonomous cars from being on the road today is the liability, insurance, and risks that may come along with them. Similarly to this autonomous car is another form of transportation called an urban transport pod. It is controlled autonomously like the vehicle, but it is a much smaller version that only seats one person. They do not travel on the road, but instead on their own chosen paths. The rider will get into the pod and see a touchscreen computer. On there, he or she will be able to select their destination and their ride will begin. There are electronic hookups in the pod as well that allow riders to be productive or have fun in their ride by reading the news, playing video games, or even checking emails. These are completely controlled electronically as well and could be very beneficial in cities to get from one place to the other, requiring no self-efforts. Maglev trains are another form of railway transportation that actually do already exist in places like Shanghai and Japan, but are being changed and improved. Maglev stands for magnetic levitation and has some similarities to the Hyperloop trains we already discussed. They also use the magnetic force to lift and move the train forward. Researchers believe that these trains controlled by magnetic forces reduce the amount of energy used in comparison to the electric powered trains or gas powered trains. They are expensive to build, but they help free congested roads, reduce air pollution, and reduce accidents, so putting in a maglev train system seems to be worth the initial cost. Smart cars are another invention that we already see on the roads today, but automotive researchers are still looking for ways to improve them. These cars are tiny, battery-powered cars that run solely on electricity and have no need for fuel. Improvements such as automatic braking upon the release of the foot from the gas pedal are looking to be in more of these smart cars. These cars are best for urban situations because they only travel at a maximum of 100 miles before they need to be charged again. However, many urban sites are putting in places to charge your parked car upon your arrival there. You can park your car in a parking spot, hook it up to the charger, go inside while it is charging, and come back and have a fully charged car. These electrically powered cars are very cheap and eco-friendly and can be very beneficial to the earth with the more people that begin to drive them. In conclusion, electricity and magnetism are enhancing the quality of transportation in the world today, and researchers are looking for even more ways that they can better our transportation in the future. Electrically powered cars, like smart cars, and urban transport pods are making transportation easy, cheap, and are also helping our environment. These cars and pods really require no extra energy and allow you to do other things while you are getting from place to place, instead of having to focus on the road and driving. Benefits of the pods along with the autonomous vehicles allow them to just be very productive with their time spent in their cars, like I mentioned. They are very high-tech and hopefully would reduce the amount of accidents we have on the road. After all, robots should make fewer mistakes than human beings. The train systems controlled by magnetism are the most impressive forms of future transportation, in my opinion. They seem to be very beneficial. The magnetic field repels the train from the track, reducing friction and allowing transportation to happen at extremely high speeds. These railway systems are safe, reduce traffic on roads, and are extremely effective. Overall, the improvements in progress being made due to magnetism and electricity seem to be very promising for better transportation into the next decade to come. That is the end. Here are my works cited. Thank you.